Friends, in the last video, which was the part 1 on the car engines, we covered certain basics of car engines. What exactly we mean by a car engine, the basic principles of a car engine, different varieties, types of car engines. In this video, we are going to talk about a topic which is of contemporary interest, that is on turbo engines and superchargers. Actually, turbo engine is something which is catching up the attention. More and more people are going into purchasing turbo engines within the brands. So many car brands are nowadays launching turbocharged engines. The naturally aspirated engine as against the turbocharged engine, which is more common. If you want to increase the power output from your naturally aspirated engine, then you can probably do it by providing more air by forced induction. However, that can be done in two ways, either through a turbocharger or through a supercharger. There are limited numbers of cars available today with superchargers in India. Let's try to understand more about the differentiation between turbocharger and supercharger and what exactly the turbocharger does. Before that, we should understand that the naturally aspirated engine, which is the most common among most of the car brands today, is a type of IC engine which has an air intake depending solely on the atmospheric pressure and therefore does not depend on the forced induction. When the exhaust gases exit from the chamber in a naturally aspirated engine, precious energy is actually getting wasted. So the turbocharger, what it does, it utilizes these exhaust gases for improving the efficiency of the engine. Turbo system utilizes two bladed fans attached to a common shaft. One of the wheels is the compressor and the other one is the turbine. The turbo is typically mounted between the exhaust pipe and the exhaust manifold. The exhaust from the engine rotates the turbine, which in turn spins the compressor. The spinning of compressor helps to draw air or oxygen and then compresses it, making the air denser. So a dense air having an increased potential energy, when it is fed to the engine's intake manifold, results in combustion, creating more power within the cylinder. So this forces the piston down faster during the power stroke, thus turning the crankshaft faster and generates more power. As a result, smaller engines produce higher energy, so better performance and more efficiency. Thus, the turbocharger is an easy way to extract the additional power. Where the turbocharger actually wins is that it allows the usage of smaller sized engine. So a smaller turbo engine can generate the same power as a usual larger ordinary engine. But since it is smaller, it uses lesser fuel, so better efficiency. So they are also lighter than the usual larger engines, thus further helping the fuel economy. If you look at the history of turbo engines in India, it was Tata's who first brought turbo engines to India. A diesel engine in their SUV Sierra. The Ford was the first to introduce turbo petrol in India in 2013. This was soon followed by Volkswagen. Studies actually shows that youngsters really prefer high power, energy, high performance cars. Despite a small issue with the turbo engines that is generally known as the turbo lag, there is no denying that these turbo engines have an addictive feeling of power. But they are also having some disadvantage. They are prone to overheating, less reliable. Is turbo engine is a necessity? I really wonder, because there are some car manufacturers like Honda, Toyota, Maruti. They still run successfully with naturally aspirated engines. Wonderful engines they come out with. Natural aspirated engines of some of these brand cars are fantastic. In fact, some of the car manufacturers feel that turbo engine has a negative psychological effect, because some people, they rate the car based on the size of the engine, the cylinder size. Like you say 1 liter engine, 1.5 liter engine. The turbo engines are generally smaller, so psychologically they may feel this is a smaller capacity car. But actually turbo engines, a smaller engine can give the same power output like a larger engine normal car. Definitely naturally aspirated engines are more reliable as compared to turbo engines, though the difference is not much. This is mainly because fresh clean air gets into the engine for a naturally aspirated engine all the time. Over and above this, the additional components used in turbo engines also increase the maintenance cost. and the risk of failure. So the general life expectancy is always larger in the case of a naturally aspirated engine. The air that is forced into the engine through the compressor actually is getting heated up. This is a problem because once it gets heated up, it loses its density. So turbochargers usually have an intercooler also to lower the air temperature before it reaches the engine intake manifold. The turbo lag, which is a disadvantage in the case of turbo engines, occurs at low revolutions because the engine is not revving enough hard and generating big enough volume of exhaust gases at that point of time. Once the rev reaches a certain level, turbo suddenly comes into operation, generating a surge of power. That's what it makes it a little bit tricky to drive a turbo engine car. Many sports cars, they don't really prefer a turbo engines for this reason. That brings us to the topic of supercharged engine. The supercharger has many advantages over and above this turbocharge. Like it provides you instant boost and power delivery. Also, there is no turbo lag in the case of a supercharger. In India, supercharged engines are available only in high-end cars today, very few of them. The main goal of supercharger is same as the turbocharger, that is force compressed air into the engine cylinder to get more combustion and higher power. But instead of using the exhaust gas pressure for driving the compressor, the supercharger uses a belt attached to the engine itself, typically the crankshaft, to drive the compressor. The major advantage is that the supercharger is always available. So there is no lag waiting for the exhaust gases to build up and wheels to spool up. As BS6 norms are coming, car manufacturers are getting more and more concerned with the emission controls. That's why there is a massive decline in diesel engines of late. The turbocharger plays a significant role here as they are smaller with less displacement and more fuel efficient. So these engines produce smaller amount of carbon dioxide and definitely cleaner from the point of view of emissions. The exhaust gases are not at all wasted and helps to build up additional power. Many turbocharger engines, people who uses it, they say that it is really fun to drive. The experience is great. That's what people say. Actually, the engine adds more torque at the lower RPMs. Turbo engines are better at higher altitude also because of the forced induction. But because of the additional complexity added with the turbocharger, the maintenance cost could be higher, the reliability less, higher risk of failures, requires more expensive premium synthetic oil, more attention and maintenance. Some turbo engines even require premium gasoline as fuel. On the contrary, the ordinary engines of naturally aspirated engines, they are simple, lesser expensive, more reliable. The examples of supercharged engines in India are Audi SY Sportback, Jaguar F-Type, Range Rover Autobiography SV, Range Rover Sport SVR, Jaguar XF V8, Volvo XC90. So which type of car engine is better? Definitely depends on your individual needs and preferences. If you are looking for higher power and better fuel efficiency, go for a turbo engine. But if you are looking for a simple, reliable, lesser maintenance engine, go for a naturally aspirated engine. Of course, it also depends on your driving style. If you have the habit of driving aggressively and often requires to accelerate quickly, a turbocharged engine could be a good choice. However, if you drive mostly in the city, you don't probably need a lot of power. A non-turbocharger engine could be a better choice for you then. Of course, budget plays a very important role in this decision making because turbocharged engines are typically more expensive compared to a naturally aspirated engine. When it comes to a supercharger, it can really give you a power delivery, provide boost immediately, while the turbochargers have a time lag. So supercharger is superior from the point of view of the lag. Superchargers are better for acceleration, better for sustained high-speed driving. Turbochargers are definitely more efficient compared to superchargers because they make use of the engine exhaust gas, improving fuel economy and reducing emissions. And superchargers are more expensive compared to turbocharger also. Superchargers are considered to be more durable as compared to turbochargers, as they are not susceptible to heat damage. If you like my video, please like it, share it and subscribe it. In the next part of this video, we will come out with some more details on different aspects of the car engine. Thank you.